Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to prepare you for this data visualization assignment. You're already familiar with the basics, so in this session we're going to work with parameters and calculated fields. Now, the assignment has a certain structure. I'm going to do a very similar exercise, but some details will be different. So whenever you're coming back to do the assignment, remember these differences and make sure you're not just replicating this video. This video is not the assignment. It's something similar to it. So here is the plan for this practice together. You're going to create an executive dashboard that shows quarter over quarter profits of different product categories and subcategories. You're going to create a parameter called active quarter to control our visualizations. We're going to focus on quarterly profits. Unlike the assignment requires you to work on monthly sales. So remember that difference. We're going to create calculated fields that depend on your control parameter, active quarter. And we're going to have our visualizations depend on the control parameter as well. Eventually, we're going to combine some plots to enrich the view. In order for us all to be on the same page with this assignment, please make sure you download and use this data set. The version of the Superstore dataset that you have on your computer might be different. So make sure you download and use it. I'm going to download it. I already have it here, so I'm going to overwrite it and open it. I'm right here in sheet 1. And I'm going to work on my quarterly profits in this sheet. So we want to record quarterly profits here. First of all, we drag profit and show the sum of profit here in the plot area, or we can drag it onto the text. The same result will appear. Right click, format, go to fields, sum of profit, change the font if necessary, resize it. I use this color. And this is currency, so we can have dollar values. And if we are displaying the units in thousands, we can add 1 decimal place as well. So this is what I created. Right now, it's showing the total profit in the whole data set. It's summing over all the profit values. Close the format box, go back to the data pane. Now here we wanted to create a parameter to control the behavior and the content of our visualizations. So I called this the active quarter parameter. I selected date as its type. For format, I used this format, year followed by Q and the number of quarter. For range, I wanted it to have certain values. So this control, I wanted to show the range of possibilities from my data. And in my data set, we go from the first month of 2017 to the last month of 2020. Step size should be 1 quarter in this exercise. Remember, this is just about this exercise. And some of you are not getting this form here, this custom formatting. So for you, you need to use this structure, use custom, and type in these values for Y values, for years, space, double quotation mark, the letter Q, capital Q, followed by Q, small q. So this is what format we're going to be using. And some things might be different here on your screen. If you're on a Mac or the trial version, it's okay. I'll show you where this manifests itself so you know what's happening. So this is it. I created it. I'm not going to repeat some of these steps if I do them once. Right now, I'm going to show you how to show this parameter, and I'm not going to talk about this next time. I'm going to go through it quickly. So right-click on the parameter you just created, show parameter. On the right-hand side here, this parameter appears. This is how the display format is creating the different quarters for me. And it's a slider. If you some of you may not be seeing this slider. You might be seeing something like a type-in area, like this one. In this case, make sure you click slider, click this arrow here, select the slider, and this is your control. We have a control. Now, by the way, those of you who want to check out your data, this is where you click this icon, and you can sort your data based on date and see the range of values that your dates have. If you use the same data set as me, then you should get the same exact range. So we wanted to also determine if certain observations happen in the active quarter or not. So for this purpose, we wanted to create a calculated field. I'm calling it inactive quarter. And I'm using a certain function, a date function, date trunc, to achieve this. So first of all, I'm going to extract the quarter part from the date that I will have. Date is a variable, a data field in my data set. I start with open bracket here and start typing order date, which is the variable for my date. It comes up, I select it. So date trunc extracts the quarter element from my order date, and I want to see if it equals my open bracket active quarter. So if it equals my active quarter, then in that case, that observation did happen in my active quarter, right? So this will generate a new variable in my sheet called inactive quarter. I'll show you what it is. Inactive quarter. Right now, depending on what my active quarter is, I will see if I am getting this variable correctly or not. So I changed my active quarter to 2017 Q1 and sorting here based on order date. And you can see the active quarter is true for my first quarter, and then it turns false in the next quarter. So that's it. Now, I want to limit the sum of these profits to the active quarter I'm looking at. So I need to filter by that. So I drag inactive quarter to filters and select true. Whenever it's true, consider that as my data. And this basically changes the total quarter, the total profits to whatever happened in that specific active quarter. So this is our first sheet here. In the second sheet, we wanted to calculate quarterly, or let's say growth, profit growth, Q over Q. So before we can do that, before we can put profit growth Q over Q here, we need to create some additional calculated fields. First of all, I want to duplicate the inactive quarter and edit that duplicate. And I want to identify whatever happened in the prior quarter as true here. If it happened in the previous quarter, previous to the active quarter, then I want this variable to be true. We call these Boolean variables. They get true or false values. So for each row in my data, I take the order date, extract quarter from it, and I check out what quarter that transaction happened in. And then I want to see if it was in the quarter before my active quarter or not. To get the quarter before my active quarter, I have to use a function to move my quarter one step back from the active quarter. And that was the date add function that we used. The date add function takes the date part you're interested in. You're interested in quarter this exercise. And the interval that we want to go back or forward is -1 in our case. Minus means one, minus means back, one means one step. So we're going to go one quarter back from the active quarter date, which I had here earlier. That's my third element. In terms of syntax, you can see the calculation is valid, so I'm doing it right. We can always double check the result to see if we got it right. So this gives me true if something happened in the quarter prior to the active quarter. So I'll hit apply, okay. And I can always check here to see if that happened or not. First of all, let me bring up my active quarter show parameter and make sure I am in the second quarter here. Now I can test and see, sorting my data based on order date. So right now the active quarter is the second quarter. So if I come back here, come down here, starting the second quarter, you can see the active quarter becomes true. And the in prior quarter becomes true right before that in the prior quarter. So that's what I wanted to do, and I have done that. All right, so we have the active quarter, we have the prior quarter specified. Now we need to calculate, because we want to calculate growth, we need to calculate growth in the active quarter and also in the prior quarter. In order to do that, we need to separate that time period and take a sum over profits over that period. So we need to create a new calculated field. I'm going to call this one profit in active profits active queue. So what should the profits be in active queue? Well, they will be taken from the profit column, but whenever the active quarter is true, that will happen. So if I'm going to bring in a variable here, inactive quarter. If inactive quarter means if the value of inactive quarter is true, then when something is half written like this case, if you press the tab key on your keyboard, it fills it up. Then profit. So, and profit is also a variable. So I start with a bracket open here. Profit. Oh no, that's a mistake. Profit. Make sure you don't make mistakes like clicking the wrong variable. If inactive quarter, then consider that profit. And that's active profit. We also want to duplicate this one, edit it, and I'm going to calculate profits prior Q, prior quarter. Remember, you're going to do this for month, and you're going to do this for sales when you are working on the assignments. Profits prior Q. So in this case, we sum over profits, or we consider, not sum yet, but we consider profits only when we are in the prior quarter. If you want to be absolutely sure, just make sure you get the right variable here in prior quarter. The calculation is valid. Okay, so we have our profits from active and prior quarters separated, and you can always check them in the spreadsheet Now we need to subtract them, divide by one of them, take the sum over them, and calculate growth. So let's create a calculated field called growth or profit. Growth Q over Q. Not to mistake it with the field name, with the sheet name there. Let me call it PR. Growth Q over Q. So you don't mistake these two. So now this is my variable. Okay, I need to put something in it, not so quick. All right, so here we want to calculate that growth, that basically change. It could be positive and negative. So I'm going to basically first take the sum of those variables we created earlier, sum of profits in active queue minus the sum of profits in prior quarter, and make sure you close this parenthesis that you opened at the beginning, because this wants to be the numerator of a division. This entire thing is supposed to be the numerator of a division. I'm putting the entire subtraction statement or expression in a set of parentheses. And then we divide that by the absolute value, the positive version of the sum of profits prior Q. So from the prior Q to the active Q, this is the change over the initial value, and that gives us growth. It could be positive, it could be negative. Calculation is valid. Okay, so for now that we have this calculation, we can drag it over to this area. Notice that I'm not putting it in the rows or columns areas. I'm putting it in the actual field, in the actual view, and that's equivalent to putting it on the text card here. And now I have this value, and I want to convert it to a percentage. So I right-click, format, and we come here to the fields. This is the element we are working on. So we will change it however we feel, bold, maybe bigger. And numbers, we want to consider it as a percentage. And we also wanted to add the positive sign. So I'm going to custom, and when I come to custom, you see this is the code that is displaying what I have right now. I want to add a plus at the beginning, semicolon, and repeat the same thing with a minus. So whenever it's positive, it gets a plus at the beginning. Now this is what I have, and if I go through my quarters, you see it's changing. Another thing that I wanted to do was to turn this red and green depending on the positive or negative sign. So the color would depend on the value of profit growth. So I can drag this variable here onto color and edit its colors. I wanted not to have a spectrum, a continuous range of colors, but a stepped color, red and green only 2 steps. And I want to select red and green here, 2 steps. I want to center it at 0. Apply. And let's see how it looks. It's looking good. Just the way we want it. Yeah, in the process so far, we created a parameter to control your visualization. Now this is the substance of our dashboard. We're focusing on that. We created calculated fields that will depend on our control parameter. And we will make shortly, we will make our visualizations depend on the control parameter. We will also combine plots to enrich the view. As the third element here, I wanted to add a sheet and I wanted to have a line chart. And I wanted to have the profits for each quarter displayed on this line chart. Sum of profits. Let's see. I bring profits. So I wanted the columns to be quarters. So profit has to go into the row and quarters should be in the columns. Yeah, where are they? Where is my date? Okay, order date. I'm going to change it to quarter. And notice that there are two sets of options here for you. There's one quarter here, one quarter here. We want the second one that gives you the full range of your data. And we have, let's see, we have profits in each quarter. And we can also change the size. So this is the control for this chart. And you can see that we have automatic, it's a line chart. And we wanted to add another plot here that allowed us to see these points, the actual data points. So we wanted to bring the sum of profits again. Where's profit? Okay, this is a profit. I'm dragging it over here, creating another version of it. But this time, notice that now we have three groups here. One is all, whatever you do on these cards will apply to all of your charts. Whatever you do to the sum of profit cards will apply to the top chart. Whatever you do to the last one here applies to the lower one. So I wanted to change this one from automatic to circle. And I wanted to have a bigger circle. These are your decisions. The size really doesn't matter that much. And I also wanted to overlay this one on the top chart. So I came to this chart plot here, axis here, and select dual axis, right click, select dual axis. It puts them on top of one another. And to glue them together, we again come here to the second axis and click synchronize axis after right clicking. Right click, synchronize axis. All right, so these guys are now glued together. We also wanted to make the color of these dots dependent on the active quarter, right? So whenever it's in the active quarter, we can drag this over. Notice that we have multiple cards here. If you drag it to the wrong one, you're not going to get the intended result. I'm going to drag it over to the sum of profit 2, the second one that I created, which contains the circles. So in active quarter, bring it to color. And right now it's here. My active quarter parameter is not showing. Let me show it. If I click back and forth, this could move, and it is. So this was the third element. That fourth element would be a bar chart. And in the bar chart, we wanted to put, in our example here, quarterly profits for different categories and subcategories. So I'm going to go to my profits for the active quarter because that's what I want to display. Put it here, and we're going to sum over it. And I'm going to also bring my product category and subcategory here. We also wanted to sort our category based on the field profits active, the sum of it. You also wanted to sort subcategory based on the nested field, because we're in a nested situation here, profits active. And we wanted to use the growth calculated field to color these bars. The color scheme we're using would be a red-green diverging, and the center is 0, so this is continuous, so we are fine with this, and apply. Okay, the next thing was to add lines that show us profits from the prior period, so we have a comparison. So in order to do that, we wanted to bring profits prior quarter to the detail to be able to use it. And let me also add this show parameter here. So we have this parameter. So I brought the profits for prior quarter here, and now I can use it. If you click the horizontal axis, you can add a reference line. The line can be added to panes, which are these bigger groupings, but we want to add them to cells, which are these little bars here. We don't want the labels, no label. We want the sum of profits in the prior quarter. And this should be sum 2. We want the line to be a little heavier. And there we are. Line per cell, prior quarter summation, no label, heavier line, maybe change the color of line to black. So we can now see in all of these periods, for example, we had less profit than the prior quarter, hence the reddish colors. Our last sheet is now ready, and we can put all of these together in a dashboard. So let's start a dashboard here. And I'll let you guys manage how you put things on the dashboard. I'm just gonna throw things around here quickly for you to have an idea. So I'm going to drag my bar chart here. I'm holding down the Shift key. I'm going to drag over my line chart. And notice that these legends are also going to come. Some of them we don't use and need, so we can close them. Some of them we need and we should keep them. This one I wouldn't need. But the active, this is the control, so I'm going to keep that. That's something I wanted you to include. So this is looking a little bit different on the left side. It's showing both. It should be just a slider. I don't know what's happening here. Let me bring the other two elements, quarterly profits. You see that was in the right slider, so I closed it. I'm going to bring quarterly profits, hold down the Shift key. Now I also have that active quarter element. Okay, now it's looking better. Actually, that wasn't a mistake. This is the title. I think we can get rid of the title. Or keep it, your choice. And you can delete these titles and add your own text. So in the case of this one, for example, we can remove the title. Don't forget what it was because you have to type it in. Quarterly profits. and I can drag a text element here, hold the shift key down and type quarterly. Profits here, formatted as I'd like to see them. Okay. So I have more control when I write down my text like this. I can add whatever I want, format however I want, and this looks better. You can resize these numbers and make sure you put enough room here so larger numbers are displayed. Don't make them too small. And we can bring our profit growth also in. You can choose to format it later. You can get rid of these additional legends. And I'm going to quickly check to see if everything's connected or not. So when I change my quarter, my active quarter should change here. You can format these as well. My numbers should change. My charts should change. And I will have my elements working. You just have to work to beautify the presentation. So everything is changing and everything is working. Perfect. Good luck.